I feel like you're a guy that is doing multiple things at once. So yeah, maybe that's the path that you're on right now, but you must have something else that you're kind of like
for sure
working on, because you don't seem like someone who just sits around and chills.
No. I do have a couple projects that I've been developing. I think that documentaries is one of my favorite genres, and I've been developing a docuseries on a music producer, which I hope to announce very soon. And it's been a very a rewarding project, being able to work with somebody that you admire, and being able to work with troves of archive, and being able to craft a story, and being able to be in somebody's house and get to be in their studio and see how they go through their creative process. I mean, that's kind of being able to use your craft and your skill set, to tell a story and tell it beautifully, and being able to get an essence of somebody and being able to transmit that. And in turn, I've kind of been also working on a passion project, and thinking about honoring the legacy of my father. I've been collecting troves of archive. I mean, there's many video clips and things that my father worked on that are on YouTube. Now YouTube has been a treasure trove of things that I have never seen myself. I'm rediscovering and getting to know my father a little bit through the archive that I've been finding on YouTube. When my father was directing back in the 70s, he started in the early 70s. I wasn't even born yet, and then when I was born in 77, his career in Spain was speaking, and then we moved to Italy, and he started producing a lot of content in Italy. So I was just a little kid during that time, and now I've been going back and finding some of those things that he directed, which were pioneering. He started using the first chroma key, masks, and keys, being able to put backgrounds and mask over dancers and do multiple takes and different effects. And then he would shoot the plate, was a background, and he would spin a polarizing filter over it, and that would create computer graphics before there were computer graphics, and it was revolutionary at the time, and he was famous for it. He even shot, one of the first, I would call, video clips with the Jacksons back in New Year's Special in 1976. So yeah,
that's wild, man. That's wild.
These are all for Spanish markets. So
it was Spanish television used to do a very big New Year's Special show. It was like a 2-3 hour show taped, and some of the biggest celebrities would come and shoot. Tom Jones, the Jacksons, and Le Chic, and different performances. And one of the New Year specials in 1976, my mother, who was one of the hosts, is interviewing the Jackson 5s, and Michael is just a little kid. He's like 10 or 11 years old, I would say, or 12 years old. I'd have to double check that. But he says, "Hi, my name is Michael," and he's just a little kid, and my father would shoot on these infinite white sets, like on a white cyc, and he would light it, in just a way so that the background would just kind of be invisible. And it was the first ways of, without having computer graphics or being able to key somebody and make them, kind of float in the ethereal white space, it was kind of like the closest thing to it. So he would start shooting, musicals, and shoot them on film and time out the song and break out the song every step, kind of like editing in his head, and start assembling these music pieces that were his trademark, and he would zoom in and out and do effects and do all sorts of crazy camera moves, where they eventually called him and had his nickname was Mr. Zoom, and people were kind of sometimes he overdid it, and he would just rack zoom back and forth and drive people crazy,
Took that name seriously.
Yeah, he took it too hard, he's like and he then had a ballet that he called Ballet Zoom, and the Ballet Zoom was, a staple in all of his shows. He would have musical performances, and then with the musical performances was either the Ballet Zoom, or as a segment, it was the Ballet Zoom does this song, and it was just a pure performance of choreography, music, editing, visuals with a background. I mean, it was very conceptual. I mean, I would say it's almost like conceptual art, you know, like where they were really pushing the boundaries of television and what was possible. And it was kind of pursuing that freedom that my father didn't have, you know, growing up in Romania in a dictatorship with censorship, with communism, and with all those restrictions where they basically, you know, had, you know, black and white television, and it was very much controlled media, to be able to have complete creative control where you were the director that had his own creative vision, and that was, you know, almost like, you know, like an author writing a book, you know. I mean, he had control, and he did work with the greats, you know. I mean, Julio Iglesias was one of the people that my father worked very close with, that he started his career and did many music specials. There's a music special in the World Fair of Osaka in Japan, where Julio Iglesias is singing. You know, he's like 20 years old and he's singing around there. Then my father and Julio Iglesias went and island hopped the islands of the South Pacific, Tahiti, Bora Bora, and Polynesia.
Why not?
With Julio Iglesias, you know, singing on a raft and surrounded by beautiful Polynesian girls, and it was just like this amazing 1 hour music movie, you know. I mean, like now that it's become like almost like, you know, something trendy, you know, that artists to shoot, you know, their movies, and it's like a 1 hour special movie and things like that. I mean, this was being done back in the 70s, you know, before MTV was even born, you know, something like that. So I mean, I feel that this trend setting and all this archive that I've been finding, it's kind of brought me to like, hey, I should do a documentary about this, you know. I mean, I'm in part for my daughter, you know, who it's like I've been wanting her, you know, when she's 2 years old now, but, you know, I'm kind of want her to get to know, you know, who her grandfather is and where she came from and her roots, and you know, and what inspired me and how I am, why the way I am. And all this kind of like brought me into this, you know, full circle moment where when I first started my career, I wanted to open up my own path. I didn't want to use my last name. I kind of hid behind, you know, different personas, or I kind of went out of my way to prove myself and my own worth. And it actually, you know, brought me here to this country. You know, I left my commodities or my fame and or my so-called, you know, notoriety or prestige or my last name in Spain and then Romania, and came to the United States and started, you know, a bigger challenge and working, you know, with different people and trying to make my own path. And I think that now that I've come, you know, to this point in my career, you know, 25 plus years later, that I'm kind of looking back, you know, and trying to, you know, honor, you know, the history of television and what I believe, you know, as a TV director and somebody that's done live music performances or music performances for television, you know, going back and seeing sometimes these, you know, performances of my father with the Jacksons, you know, or with Tom Jones or with Le Chic or with, you know, some of these things. I mean, they blow my mind, you know, and I'm like, shit, you know, I gotta get there, you know, sometimes, you know.
It's kind of like you don't really truthfully appreciate it, but now that you've done that, you know how hard that was. And it's got to be so interesting looking at it now. Like,
and you appreciate the dedication of the time it takes, you know. I mean, sometimes, you know, when you're growing up, you see the other end of it, you know. I mean, our careers are not easy, and they're not 9-to-5 jobs, you know. A lot of people can have that, you know, routine, and we sometimes, you know, spend times, you know, where we're on set till 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then we're back up, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're back there on set, you know, and you spend more time with the production than you spend at home with your family sometimes. So it is a balancing act, you know. I mean, it's a love of your profession and a love of family and a love of, you know, of being able to have a balanced life. But, you know, looking back on the sacrifices that, you know, my father had to make, you know, to be able to to achieve, what he achieved, you definitely, I feel like I need to pay a little tribute to that, and pay homage to that. So for whether it's for myself or my daughter or for future generations, I think that I'm using my skill set now as an editor, as a producer, as a director, and trying to bring that all in.
Is he still around?
No, he passed away in 2009. So he was kind of the reason that I left Spain. I got a call from Romania where he had been working with, and I started, pursuing his steps and chasing his footprints. And what I found myself was being very much in the same situation that he had been, because he did things a little bit inverse than I did. He went from Romania to Spain, not knowing the language, being 30 years old. He was already a little bit of a celebrity. I mean, like a up-and-coming director in Romania. When in his 30s, he'd won a couple awards for some of his films. And so he had an offer at one of the film TV festivals that he attended to go to Spain to do a 2-program special. He had a 2-program contract. Okay. So he went to Spain and did a show called El Real Madrid, about Real Madrid, and another one called La Última Moda. And so those 2 shows took him to Spain, and he had a job, had a contract, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, was by himself, didn't know anybody, and it was definitely, you're trying to prove yourself, but you're completely adjusting to a new culture, you know. And when my father passed away, I got this opportunity to go to Romania, and the same thing happened to me. All of a sudden, I found myself, where I had been a successful director in Spain. I had done a couple shows where I'd gotten some notoriety doing the X Factor, Got Talent, The Apprentice, and I find myself in Romania. I've got a lot to prove, and at the same time, I'm there. I don't know the language. I don't know anybody. I'm there alone. I'm trying to get adjusted to a new culture, and everybody's kind of looking at you, wondering why you're there, and waiting for you to fail. I mean, you're kind of there walking a tightrope. And so for the first time, I was like, oh my God, this is how my dad must have felt, and I never felt so close. I mean, it was like a little bit of a bonding moment that I had.
Totally.
Posthumous, and so sometimes when you walk in somebody's shoes, better said, you get to understand them better, So it's been a way of honoring my father, bonding with my father, getting to know him, and doing these things. So it's a little bit of a personal experience and a personal journey, as well as professional journey.
That's awesome.